Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Break, our place for all things books. And today, my special guest is librarian Rebecca. She and I are going to do a special October episode, which is cozy versus horror. I am Team Cozy.
And I am Team Horror.
Yeah. So I think between the two of us, we're going to give you some good choices for what you might like to read this fall if you are into seasonal reading. So I should have brought myself a pumpkin spice latte or a hot cider today. What's your fall drink of choice?
It's always iced coffee all year, all the time.
So no difference in the season.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I am going to start with one of my cozier books, and it is called A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. And I like this book a lot. I think if you're a cozy, witchy reader like I am, this is really going to appeal to you. So here's the setup. Sarah Swan is among the most powerful witches in Great Britain. But when her beloved great-aunt dies, Sarah, in desperation, decides to use a resurrection spell. She's successful, but once you've used this spell, she was thrown out of the Guild of Sorcery, and of course there's effects that are going to happen. So years later, Sarah is running the little magical inn with her great aunt, but all of her magic was pretty much depleted when she had to use this spell. So she's barely keeping all the fun little spells going in the inn, like having certain flavors of tea rain down from the walls and little cozy fires starting. So she's kind of just depressed because she's lost the magic, and the magic for her was a part of what made her special. Like when she closed her eyes, she could see galaxies of magic, and now she just has a few little tiny faint stars, when she closes her eyes. So what happens is, of course, the one part of the magic that remains is this inn will bring people to it that need to be there. So, of course, you have a nice, handsome young witch, Luke Larson, scholar of magical history, who arrives, and he actually is like a guardian and caretaker for his little sister, Posy, who is autistic. So they both start to find a place at this magical inn, and it's very much a story of found family, what makes you important. Like when Sarah lost her magic, she kind of felt like she had lost all her worth, and then she gradually starts to realize that she plays a really important role in all the people in her life. There's a lot of funny characters. There is a magical fox who was once a witch who tried to cast a spell and it boomeranged and hit herself. So you have the funny fox, which I liked, and just a lot of interesting characters, a lot of very diverse characters. So I would say if you like really cozy reads, if you like that whole found family vibe, this is definitely a book for you. This author wrote another book called, I can't think of the name of it.
The Very Secret
the
Society of Irregular Witches.
Yes, exactly. So, and also if you like T.J. Klune, like The House in the Cerulean Sea, I would say this would be a pretty good fit for you. So there is a romance. I would say it's a pretty slow burn romance, pretty closed door, like not real explicit or anything. A lot of people with diverse backgrounds, and just a kind of a warm, friendly, cozy read.
Okay.
So, just up my alley for this time of year.
It sounds nice.
Yeah. How about you? What's your first one?
So the question that everyone needs to ask themselves is, do you want to be cozy or a little uncomfortable? So I'm going to talk about 4 recent horror novels, and as a treat, I will pair each book with a few horror movies that I think it goes along with thematically.
Oh, wow.
So the first 2 are like a flip book. By a flip book, I mean that you have the book on one side, and you flip it over, there's a different book on the other side.
Okay.
And they're both fairly short, like 250 pages, so basically novellas. So the first half of the flip book is The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones. He is a well-known author in the horror genre. He's written a couple of dozen novels as well as several short stories.
Isn't he a Native American?
He is. He's a Blackfeet Indian, and
Okay.
he often references that experience in his fiction. His recent books include The Only Good Indians from 2020 and The Buffalo Hunter from 2025.
Right, that one just came out, I think.
Yeah. So The Babysitter Lives is part of the flip book. It starts with a setup familiar from horror films and urban legends. High school senior Charlotte goes to babysit the Wilbanks twins on Halloween night, and everything seems perfectly normal. The kids are home from trick-or-treating, still in their costumes. The parents show her around the house, and they lay down some ground rules. Certain areas of the house are strictly off limits. So her plan is to put the kids to bed early and settle down to study for her college admission exam, which is the next day.
Not to explore the parts of the house that were strictly off limits.
That's not the plan. But all is not as it seems. Who could have expected that?
Yeah.
There are unexplainable noises and mysterious shadows, and the twins seem to possess some secret knowledge.
Uh-oh.
A sense of dread develops as the truth is slowly unraveled. Without giving away too much, Charlotte discovers that a horrific event occurred in the house years earlier. The fact that it occurs on Halloween is significant, since that is traditionally a time when the boundary between the everyday world and the supernatural world is at its most porous. The Babysitter Lives is atmospheric and suspenseful, blending the supernatural with psychological horror. So the films that I would pair this with are two that deal with babysitters in danger.
Okay.
One is When a Stranger Calls, which is a film starring Carol Kane from 1979, where she keeps getting threatening calls while she's babysitting.
Oh,
The phone
gosh.
rings
This bring back horrible nightmares.
and the voice says, "Have you checked the children? Have you gone upstairs to check the children?" So everyone remembers that film, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is, of course, Halloween, the
Yeah.
original Halloween John Carpenter movie from 1978, which centers around teen girls babysitting on Halloween night. But both of those films are slashers. They involve threats from a murderous psychopathic character, and this book is not a slasher. So a different and maybe better choice I'm going to offer would be The Haunting from 1963, which was based on Shirley Jackson's novel, The
Okay.
Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, that's kind of a classic horror
It's
novel.
very much a classic, and it involves a haunted house that becomes like a character in the story. So the other side of the flip book is Killer on the Road
Okay.
by the same author. So while The Babysitter Lives deals with the fear around being trapped or enclosed, fear in an environment that should feel mundane, familiar, and comforting, Killer on the Road is instead about the fear of the open highway, the anonymity of the road, not knowing what to expect or not knowing what or who you might encounter next. It calls to mind urban legends about killers on the road, like the urban legend of the man with a hook hand, and the reality of predators on the road. So Harper is a teenager who has a blowout with her mom and decides to take off and hitchhike down Route 80.
Oh, no, Harper. Not a good plan.
Her father was a trucker who mysteriously disappeared on Route 80. And so she hopes to find him or at least find out what happened to him. So who stops to pick her up but her two besties, along with her ex-boyfriend and her little sister. So they're not actually there purely by chance. They are planning an intervention. So they all take off on an impromptu road trip. But the story is not all youthful rebellion and adventure, because there is indeed a killer on the road.
Oh, dear.
A serial killer named Bucket Mouth,
Oh, God.
who has terrorized the highway for years, becoming an urban legend and a warning. And for reasons not made clear at first, he has Harper in his sights. So Bucket Mouth follows the group relentlessly, playing an intense game of cat and mouse with them.
Okay.
And it turns out that he is not only violent and psychopathic, he has some supernatural abilities.
Of course.
Oh, great.
The novel features high adrenaline suspense right from page one and breakneck pacing as the fear factor ratchets up. The Babysitter Lives initially felt like a setup for a slasher scenario, but then it flipped the script. Killer on the Road is a slasher from beginning to end, and it is brutal and graphic and gory. So the films that I would pair this with are The Hitcher, the 1986 movie starring Rutger Hauer, which is about a young man who picks up a hitchhiker who turns out to be a psychopathic serial killer who is stalking him. And also Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, which begins with a group of young people on the road who are lightheartedly enjoying themselves and going on an adventure until they end up targets of a whole serial killer family.
Great.
Now, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that was based on, do you remember who that was based on?
Allegedly based on Ed Gein.
Which is making the rounds now on Netflix. I believe there's like a documentary or a new biopic about him.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one that Charlie, who, no,
I
what?
don't know.
Yeah.
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 Was he Leatherface?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the character in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's
Gotcha.
called
Okay.
Leatherface.
Yeah, that's truly a horrifying movie.
It is.
And for being in
Shocking.
1974, like, I believe at the time it was either like a really low budget film
Very
or
low
like,
budget.
yeah. And so that kind of adds to the whole mystique of the film because it looks like it's shot on like handheld.
Right.
Wild.
It's a cult movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right, back to Cozy, back to Claire, the
Are you ready
scaredy
for
cat. Well, this one isn't really cozy. I'm starting to get a little bit less cozy as I get along.
Okay.
This one is called The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. And this one is unusual because it is based like a historical novel in World War I, which really never gets as much time in books as World War II does. And it weaves together trauma, memory, and also a little bit of the supernatural. So our main character is Laura Ivan. She is a Canadian nurse. She's been wounded and sent home from the front to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where she lives. And she's trying to recover from her injuries. And while she's there is a big catastrophic explosion in Halifax. Her parents are both killed, and not long after this, she receives word that her brother Freddie, who has been fighting in the war, is now missing and presumed dead. So she decides that she's going to go back and try to figure out what happened to her brother. She has a feeling that he's dead, but she's not 100% sure. And then she goes to see a psychic who tells her that he's still alive and something is wrong. So meanwhile, Freddie awakens in World War I, and he's in what they call a German pillbox, and he's alongside a wounded German soldier. So these two are trapped in this little kind of bubble of air and eventually dig their way out and meet a character that kind of transcends the physical world. His name is Phelan. He's a mysterious fiddler, so he kind of draws people in through music, and he can kind of set up like a house that is really like a bombed out place to almost look like a speakeasy type place. So these people are sucked in. So you have these people that are almost stuck in between worlds, so to speak.
Like a purgatory type thing?
Yeah. And of course, there's a price to pay for listening to his music and drinking his wine and so forth.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this one is, you've got to is Freddie going to break the influence of this Phelan character? Will his sister ever find him and figure out what happened to him? So there's several reasons I would say if you want to read this book is if you like that blending of historical fiction and magical realism. This is very much on the magical realism side, more than I would say horror. But it does have a lot of supernatural elements. And the odd part is a lot of the horrifying elements are a part of the real war itself and what happens to a lot of these young men. So this author, Catherine Arden, she doesn't abandon the horrors of World War I, but she layers it with the supernatural, with ghosts and memories and magic and almost like a haunting, surreal feel. So Laura is a very determined, brave character, very beyond her time, I guess, of women. But a lot of women, I think, stepped up in times of war and unfortunately aren't recognized. But it doesn't. This book doesn't shy away from the psychological effects of war. So very atmospherical, lyrical writing. This author, Catherine Arden, wrote a series that I read. It was based on kind of Russian folklore that I thought was really good. The first book was called The Bear and the Nightingale. So I really liked that one. But so if you liked any of her previous work, I would definitely recommend this one. And also, if you like historical fiction and don't mind some magical realism thrown in, I would recommend this book. So, yeah.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I don't know of a movie that would fit this. I don't watch a lot of movies, but I'm trying to think.
Historical movie with ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That goes-
World War One.
Yeah, World War One, that's the hard part.
Yeah. I'm sure there. I'm sure there is, but none that spring to mind.
Right.
Yeah. So the next one I wanted to talk about is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is also a well-known and prolific horror author. His first novel was Horror Store in 2014. It's a comedy horror about an IKEA-type store that's haunted. And he also wrote some other books, such as My Best Friend's Exorcism, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
Okay.
And the
that one, I've got that one on audio right now. I
Oh.
just started it, so
Oh.
I'll have to ask you how horror. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one.
Okay.
And The Final Girl Support Group
Okay.
was another one of his. So you might gather from these titles that he tends to be have somewhat campy or tongue-in-cheek approach to horror. But Witchcraft for Wayward Girls is serious and even somewhat disturbing, but the supernatural parts of the story are not the most disturbing parts. So this is also historical. It is set in the 1970s in Florida, and the story follows a group of teenage girls who have been sent away to a place called Wellwood House, which is a maternity home for unwed mothers where their families would send them so they can be hidden away somewhere and have their baby and put it up for adoption, and no one will know about it. The family will not be embarrassed.
Right.
So they are treated strictly there. They are constantly shamed, and even their names are stripped away. The main character, Neva, is renamed Fern. The other girls are renamed Rose, Zinnia, and Holly. And so each of them has a different traumatic backstory involving neglect, abandonment, and sexual assault. A witchy librarian, of course, shows up in a bookmobile, and the girls discover a book that is entitled How to Be a Groovy Witch.
Is the librarian a good character?
I can't really tell you.
Oh, gosh.
So they start to try out some of the spells in the book, and they start to discover their own power, which is initially a positive thing, and they try to use their witchcraft to overcome their trauma and to create better lives for themselves, but not to give too much away of the story. It's not as simple as that, and something is demanded back from them. So the book blends very real historical horror with elements of folk magic and supernatural menace. Mm-hmm. It confronts serious issues like misogyny. They're not allowed to make their own decisions for themselves. They don't have control over their own bodies or their own futures. And they are basically sent away and isolated as punishment. And it also deals with their sense of solidarity and having the courage to rebel against constricting expectations. So I would pair this with two movies about teenage girls discovering their supernatural powers, which are The Craft from 1996 and Carrie from 1976.
Carrie was definitely a big classic.
Yeah, very much so. Very influential.
Originally Stephen King, correct?
Oh, yeah.
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 Did you read any Stephen King?
The only Stephen King I ever read was the short story that was the basis for Children of the Corn. And surprisingly, I actually liked it. And it was completely different from the movie also. It was much bleaker than the movie. Mm-hmm. And the thing I was really surprised about was I didn't, going into it, have a really high expectation of Stephen King's writing ability. But I will say that he did draw these characters very deftly. the husband and wife that are in the car. It's like you only read a few paragraphs and you already have a sense of exactly who these people are.
Okay.
So
Also really good at blending, pure like physiological horror with elements of magical realism or straight surrealism. That's what's one thing that's always drawn me to him.
Have you read several of his books or any of his books? Or?
Yeah.
they're just so long.
They're long, some tend to be shorter than others. Like the one that I first read was The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, about a girl who's trapped in the wood or lost in the woods. And there was a pitcher, I believe he played for Boston back in like the 70s or the 80s. And his name was Tom Gordon. And she had like a radio, like a normal FM, AM radio with like limited battery. And that helped her get out of the woods and all that. So
Okay.
it was a while back when I read it, but I remember that was the first one that drew me. And
Didn't he write like some short stories? Was The Green Mile his?
yep, that
And-
was definitely his. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was meant as a series.
right.
And
And
a bunch of novellas culminated into one story. Awesome.
The one about the movie poster. Oh gosh,
The movie poster?
where the guy escapes the jail. Was that his as well?
Oh, I don't know.
Tim Robbins.
Oh, Shawshank Redemption?
Yes.
Oh, I don't. Did he write that? I'll have to
don't know.
double check.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
Because I know
off
that
on a
Frank
tangent now.
Darabont directed it, but that's a good one.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one about the body, where
It
the three
was
young
Stephen
boys found the body. Yeah. That was a good one too.
It was called Stand By Me.
Stand
Yes.
By Me,
Yes. Yeah. So that I can do. So I don't, but the clown, no,
The clown from
no
It.
clown for Claire.
Yeah, too scary.
Yeah. A lot of children don't like clowns anyway. So. All right, so my last one is kind of different. It's called The Witch's Orchard by Archer Sullivan. And the main reason I picked this one up is because it was set in Appalachia. And anytime you hear the word Appalachia, I am all in. So this book is very atmospheric. It has a lot of vibes of witches and orchards and folklore, but I found it to be more almost of a police procedural or mystery than a horror type book. So the main character is Annie Gore. She is a former Air Force investigator, and she's turned private eye, and she's hired by a young man to investigate the disappearance of his sister Molly, who vanished 10 years ago from their small Appalachian town of Quartz Creek, North Carolina. And Max is desperate for answers. It's coming up on like the 10-year, I believe, anniversary of this event. And two other girls disappeared as well, and one was returned, but she's nonverbal, so she couldn't really tell anything about what happened, who had her, the whole type thing. But the other two girls never came back. So there's a lot of folklore because when the girls disappeared, one of those apple dolls was left in her place, like in a certain dress, which was kind of creepy. If you've ever seen those apple dolls, they're really creepy looking. So there's a symbolism, and of course there's a legend of a witch that would take children. So you have this going all through it while this private investigator is trying to really figure out what happened. She's also had some trauma and different things in her own life, so she's trying to reconcile that with trying to look for these missing girls. And then, of course, while she's there, another girl goes missing. So this one, the Appalachian setting is not just a backdrop. I would say it's a character. If you've ever read a novel like that where the setting is actually a character, you have misty hollers, you have dense woods, you have crows, you have old orchards and mountain. So it all kind of contributes to the atmosphere of this novel. There's a lot of folklore and myth and symbolism woven into the novel. And also the theme of how communities will silence like bad things, and people, and you don't really know people, but there's a lot of secrets kept. But I also think this one may turn into a series. So it seems likely that that could happen. This was a debut novel too, which I tend to like those. So I thought this one was pretty good. Like I'd say three to four, 3 plus. I would definitely read a second one with this character just because I really like the setting. But I visit this area a lot. You know, went to school in the mountains, so it always kind of appeals to me. Yeah.
I looked up what an apple doll was, and I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
It's the apple head, right? They use a
Yeah.
carved
The apple kind of dries out.
Yeah.
It's really it's not pleasant. Yeah.
It's fit for horror.
Yeah, definitely.
So the final book that I was going to talk about is Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia, who has written several novels. Probably the most well-known was Mexican Gothic, 2020. So The Bewitching is a multi-generational horror / dark academia novel. It weaves together 3 timelines. Each is set in a different era, and each follows a woman whose life is shaped by strange forces. So in the early 1900s, we have a young Mexican girl named Alba who is growing up in rural Mexico, and there are many family tragedies and strange occurrences in her life. Her father dies suddenly, her brother disappears unexplained, and she has suspicions of a curse haunting her family. Then in the 1930s, there is Beatrice Tremblay and her roommate, Virginia Somerset, who are students at Stone Ridge College in New England. And Virginia is an artist and a spiritualist and a somewhat quirky and eccentric character, and she mysteriously disappears. And so Beatrice actually is a horror writer. She writes a breakout hit novel that is called The Vanishing, that is based on the actual story of her roommate, which they never find out. They never find out what the truth behind that is. And then in the 1990s, Minerva Contreras, who is Alba's great-granddaughter, is a graduate student at Stone Ridge College, and she is focusing on horror literature, and as it happens, she is writing her thesis on the forgotten horror writer Beatrice Tremblay.
Okay.
And so she reads Beatrice's unpublished diary and learns all about what is going on with Virginia and her sudden unexplained disappearance. And then another student at the college disappears. So Minerva digs through archives, personal papers, and also stories told by her great-grandmother, and she uncovers connections between all 3 of the timelines. They interlock like pieces of a puzzle. All 3 of these women in different timelines are trying to solve a mystery. Is it the same mystery? I will say the story involves witches, not giving away too much, but not the feminist, nature-worshipping cottagecore witches we're familiar with from current popular culture, but witches that are based in Mexican folklore who are malevolent and predatory. It's a slow burn horror, more creeping dread than jump scares.
Okay.
It's bleak and atmospheric and features themes of generational trauma and the silencing of women. So you might consider it more like a generational epic or a historical fiction with a lot of supernatural overtones.
No, I think I could read this one.
You would like it.
Yeah, because I like the like when they have those multiple timelines with people that end up
Right.
being related in some way.
Like Wayward by
Yes.
Amelia.
Okay, so I read that one and liked that one. So if I read that, would I be able to read The Bewitching?
Yes.
Okay.
Amelia Hart.
All right.
Wayward. Yeah, a
Yes.
lot of people, when I was reading like reviews of this book, a lot of people compared it
Okay.
to that book specifically.
Nice.
And I couldn't find an exact horror movie that I thought worked exactly, but I would pair it with some classic folk horror films such as The Wicker Man, 1973, and Midsommar, 2019.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, and I've read other books with the kind of Hispanic or Mexican culture, and I think that would be really interesting too.
Yeah.
So I think out of your 3, that one is the most likely one that I'm going to pick up.
Yeah, it's probably the most literary, and the first one, the babysitter lives and Killer on the Road. Those were the most sort of gripping suspense. If you
Right.
want like a quick read, and this would be like a lot more in depth, and you'd be spending time like
Yeah.
trying to
That's the one
figure
I'd
it
go
out.
for.
Yeah. I know my daughter read Mexican Gothic and really
Uh-huh.
she liked that one
Yeah.
by that author. So, well, I think we got some great picks, and I thank you for throwing in your choices for horror films too, because
Thank
that's
you.
not something we typically do. So,
Right.
Yeah, true.
I think our listeners will enjoy that as well. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us. I know you typically like nonfiction, but horror
Me
is
too.
your other
I
kind
do
of
like
area
horror.
of
and
expertise.
it is spooky season.
It is spooky season, so well, hopefully we will give you something to read, whether you're Team Cozy or Team Horror. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next month in November. Thanks.
Thank you.
Book Break is a production of the Greece Public Library, made possible through the support of the Friends of the Greece Public Library. Theme music composed and performed by Sean.